We're back here with Ron Brower, who's an ivory carver from Barrow, Alaska. He's also a student here at the university. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about what you're doing? I noticed you were working on
I'm in the process of making a baleen basket. I had just started this yesterday, and I cut some baleen into some very thin strips with a pair of scissors. I'd worked this baleen down into this is one half of a piece of baleen, which was about 4 feet long, and I cut that into very thin strips like this, and I'm weaving it back and forth in between and shaping it as I go along, holding it back and sort of working it in between each thread.
So you weave it around this big... This is just a bigger piece of...
Right, that is a larger piece of baleen. That one was about 9 feet long when I had started off.
Mm-hmm. How long does it take for you?
Well, it's taken me about a couple hours to work this down. First of all, this was a rather large piece of baleen, which I cut into 1/8 inch strips. And I had to go through a cleaning process on the thing, which took me a few days.
Yeah. What do you cut them with?
I usually cut it with a saw, when I don't have one, or after I have soaked it in water for several days to make it pliable. I usually either use a knife or a pair of tin snips.
And this is a piece of ivory in the middle?
The center is a piece of ivory, yes. Mm-hmm. I've drilled around a bunch of holes and working it back and forth.
Yeah, maybe we could talk a little bit about some of the pieces that you've got here. A necklace and...
This necklace I made a couple of years ago. I picked out a bunch of beads from one of the stores, and I had some Eskimo trading beads which were given to me, and I made some. This is ebony with an ivory inlay.
How about this piece?
This is another belt buckle. I carved an embryo and filled it in with cigarette ash. I started with baleen or ivory in the center, with sealskin on the outside and a strip of whalebone on the outer rim.
Mm-hmm. And
these are a pair of seal face masks, which I recently just did. I burnt the color onto the ivory since it wasn't quite well blended in, and gave them a high polish.
Mm-hmm. And how do you seat this piece of...
Oh, the ring here?
Yeah, the ring.
I twisted some silver wire around one of my drills and just twisted it into the ivory after drilling a small hole.
Do you put any glue in there? Or
Usually I put some glue, but these were tight enough where they wouldn't pull out. Mm-hmm. So when it's too soft to pull off, I just use glue into it, usually epoxy glue.
This mask, is this one of your projects?
Oh, yes. I was wanting to have a mask for myself, and I decided instead of buying a mask, I'd make myself one. I found this piece of wood which had Ned Nusanginya's name on it, and I had some old caribou skin which I used. These are eider duck feathers, and I used caribou sinew. I braided caribou sinew onto it and added some beads on here.
Trade beads?
Yes. To give it a sort of a effective look, I put in a pair of eyes which sort of go unnoticed. Uh-huh. And this section up here is also caribou. I just cut off the rim here, and I didn't want to waste it, so I just added it on. The outer rim is sealskin. I carved a mask out of styrofoam. I didn't have anything else, and I stretched it over. I whipped my caribou and took the hair off and stretched it over the form that I had carved out. And as it shrank, this was the result of how it turned out.
Thanks for being with us.
Yes.